Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the East Bay Regional Park District Board Executive Committee. Today is Tuesday, December 14th, 2021, and it is 12:31. And we are meeting today and pursuant to the Brown Act as amended by AB 361 that allows the Board of Directors and staff to participate in board meetings via phone or video conferencing. The East Bay Regional Park District is holding this meeting through a hybrid in-person attendance with the Board of Directors, designated staff, and limited members of the public at the Park District headquarters, which is at 2950 Peralta Oaks Court, Oakland, California. And we're also going through the Park District's virtual platform, Zoom. In-person attendance by members of the public will be subject to maximum capacity of 5, as well as compliance with current health and safety protocols. And members can participate, and Madam Clerk, can you please let the public know how they can participate in this meeting today?
Yes, members of the public not attending in person can provide public comments live via Zoom, via email, via voicemail as noted on the agenda.
Great, thank you. And then Becky, can you please take the roll call?
Yes, President Rosario.
Here.
Director Corbett.
Here.
Director Coffey.
Here.
Okay, and staff participating in this meeting include GM Landreth, AGM Couchner, AGM O'Connor. We have Chief Lisa Gorgon and Chris Barton, Environmental Programs Manager.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And then oh, this is not a real, I keep thinking I was going to ask for a motion for agenda, but we don't need to do that. Okay. With that, oh, thank you, Becky. And with that, let's begin our agenda. And it is item number 2, Coyote Hills, Patterson Ranch Restoration and Public Access Project.
Good afternoon, President Rosario, directors. My name is Lisa Gorgon. I'm here this afternoon, to introduce this item on Coyote Hills. This project includes converting farmland donated by the Patterson family to habitat and providing public access. So we're here this afternoon to give an update and review where we are with the scope and the schedule and the budget prior to bringing 2 items for this project to the board next week. So those items will be to authorize bringing on a construction management firm and also the purchase of a restroom and a kiosk building. So I just wanted to give a little bit of background. So these are typically actions that we'll take with a project like this, just due to the size and complexity. This project is doing restoration on over 170 acres, over 4 miles of trails, and the cost estimate at this time is anticipated to be around 10 million. So when we bring on a construction management firm, it's to address just, again, that size and complexity of a project of this scale. Also, with the purchase of these restrooms, these are the restrooms that we've just installed at the campground at Dumbarton Quarry. So they're the same manufacturer, and they're also what we use throughout the district for flush restrooms and the kiosks. So Chris will go into a little bit more detail about this. Actually, he'll go into a lot of detail about this as he gives his presentation. And but I did want to just say that one of the neat things about this project, it's one of many of our projects that really focuses on climate adaptation to meet the goals of the district's mission. So with that, I want to turn it over to Chris Barton, who's the project manager for this project, but also the restoration projects program manager.
Thanks, Lisa. Is my slideshow displaying okay? It is? Okay, great. And I'm Chris Barton, the Park District's Restoration Projects Manager. That's all. a lot of this is review. I know the board members have seen this project numerous times throughout the planning process, but I just wanted to kind of provide an update on things. So the project is located in the city of Fremont in Alameda County in the southern area of the district. It's within Director Wieskamp's ward. The park was established more than 50 years ago. And what's really the kind of the catalyst for the project was the donation of the Patterson parcel, which is almost 300 acres. And then also the church parcel, which was acquired a few years later, which really rounded out our project boundaries. And another overview graphic showing the Patterson parcel, which is in purple here. And the intervening land between the hills, the Coyote Hills themselves, and the Patterson parcels, actually an area that's leased by Alameda County Flood Control. And then to the south, we've got Dumbarton Quarry Campground. So 7 years ago, the park's western boundary was completed with the largest land donation in Park District history. The parcel was donated by the Patterson family. And then fast forward, if I can get it to forward. Okay, I'm going to go through the project history. So back in 2017 is when we initiated a land use plan amendment process. So we went through a feasibility study process and looking at the existing conditions and brought that information to the board executive committee and had a public workshop on sharing those findings and getting feedback to help inform the land use planning process. And then from that feedback, we developed some concepts and schematic designs, and we brought that back to the board executive committee, had a second workshop and shared a preferred alternative, which the board ultimately adopted the project description for, and then directed staff to go ahead and proceed with the CEQA analysis. And that work was completed over a good part of 2018 and 2019, concluding with direction to staff to implement the park development plan. So that's what staff's been working on between the end of 2019 and where we're at today. So board members may recall there was quite a bit of discussion and public comment during the EIR public comment period, where several commenters expressed concern over the recreational use of the Patterson Slough Utility Road and potential biological impacts it may have. And let me just get my laser pointer here. So just keying in on it. So if it's this existing utility road that our grazer has historically used, and the plan calls for an overlook to be there, like a wildlife viewing overlook, and to use that as a spur trail. So ultimately, the EIR impact analysis concluded that the use of the road for recreation would have a less than significant impact because it's an existing road, would disturb vegetation on both sides, and repurposing the existing road avoids creating new site disturbance. The approved park development plan identified development of the Patterson Slough Overlook and Trail as optional, and staff recommends proceeding with including this improvement with the project because repurposing the old utility road to a hiking trail will help meet the project's public access goal by providing a unique and immersive experience for park visitors not found in other areas of the park. It also meets the goals of the Patterson donation to provide public access. Adjustments have also been made to the project design to further reduce potential biological resource impacts, including moving the 100-car lot staging area further to the east away from Patterson Slough, converting the Patterson Slough Overlook from basically a dirt utility road into a smaller hiking trail. And then also installing fencing on both sides of the trail to prevent visitors from entering restored areas. And the design also has a gate installed at the entrance to the spur trail, making it easy for park staff to close the trail if our stewardship department determines that that's necessary. Staff and the project team have been busy over the last couple of years. About 3 years, we've been working on vegetation test plots. And the purpose of these are to understand which plants do well out there in different soil conditions. And then also to understand the response to different kinds of weed control out there. And the board members may recall we've had several items to contract grow plants for this project, and those are currently being grown up in Richmond at the Watershed Nursery. Staff has also reached out and has been working with the San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority Bay Restoration Regulatory Integration Team, the BRIT. For permitting, the wetland delineation is completed. Staff has recently completed the 90% plans and specifications and has conducted rare plant surveys. Weeding is ongoing. We've been working on weeding over the past couple of years and will continue to do that in anticipation of ground disturbance with construction. We've nearly received our city entitlements from the city of Fremont. And we've initiated grading permit applications and utility coordination. This project is going to bring upgrades to water and sewer and electrical that could also be used for any future upgrades to the visitor center as well. And we've been working with our legal department to also put together a project labor agreement, which is a requirement of recipients of Measure AA funding. And last but not least, grant funding is a big part of our work program. So far we've secured $6,750,000 in grant funding. And I have another slide further on in the presentation to go into more detail on this part. So at the core, the heart of the project's goals and objectives is to provide urban agriculture, public access and restoration with like numerous objectives, including addressing climate change, having a resilient landscape, providing new staging, trails, weed control. I won't go through all of those elements. So I'm going to run through a few slides just to highlight some of the main improvements. So currently there is really no park entrance going into Coyote Hills. There's not even really an entry sign off of Paseo Padre Parkway. And that's where I've kind of highlighted this box here. It's a gravel lot where the ingress and egress is actually not very safe because this driveway is so close to Paseo Padre where vehicles are going 50 miles per hour plus coming into the main road into the park. So the project will include a new gatehouse and restore these gravel lots and plant them, and also to have a park entry sign along the entrance so that folks that are driving down Paseo Padre can see that entry sign. And then also a new kiosk, a gatehouse building that will be adjacent a new staging area, which is shown here on this slide here. So here you can see a new staging area, a new 4-stall restroom. And Lisa was just describing the board action that we have, and that's to purchase these buildings. And these are Romtech buildings. They are similar in style to what was recently installed over at the Dumbarton Quarry Campground area. So as I mentioned, there are some major utility upgrades that will also serve the visitor center. And the project's also designed to use the agricultural water from the well that's being developed on the south side of Patterson Ranch Road. The project will provide 4 miles of new trails connecting the Crandall Creek Trail, which connects to the Alameda Creek Trail, and then the San Francisco Bay Trail along the eastern boundary with the southern area of the Patterson donation over here at this bottom corner, where the park will be connected to the Dumbarton Quarry Campground. Moving into some of the habitat improvements, the upland areas north of Patterson Ranch Road will be restored to oak savanna, which is essentially sparse oaks that are spread out over the landscape. And I'm always impressed with the 172 bird species that rely on oaks. Dave Renshie pointed this out, and I'm always marvel over that. And I think that it's really a great improvement, especially having this oak savanna right next to that riparian slough where birds are always nesting in there. And then to restore wetlands. So through the SFEI historical ecology, we went back and looked to see what the historical ecology of the site was. And this area is actually where one of the largest willow thickets is located along the East Bay shoreline. So we have an opportunity with this project to expand this riparian corridor and then to also restore a lot of the willows in this area. And then going to the south side of Patterson Ranch Road, the eastern side of the site is more wet, and as you go to the west, it becomes higher and drier, and you can see that kind of illustrated in this air photo. So this red polygon here is actually our restoration area where we're planning to expand those seasonal wetlands to enlarge them. And as Lisa mentioned, climate change and our ability to adapt to climate change is kind of at the heart of this project. So we know that providing and expanding these wetlands are going to help sequester more carbon. But there's also more complexity to the site. So it's not just adding new wetlands and trails so that we can get people out of their vehicles. But the site is technically not subject to coastal flooding, but it'll be affected by a rising water table and extreme weather, including prolonged drought, intense precipitation, and temperature extremes. And so some of the things we've done to plan for that include our vegetation test plots. Over the past 3 years, as we were studying these test plots, some of those poor plants actually went through a lot of these extremes. If you recall the last 3 years, we've seen drought, extreme temperatures, and flooding, and there's actually predation by burrowing animals as well. So part of our adaptation strategy is to get ahead of some of these things and choose the plants that would be most resilient to more saline or salty soil conditions, predation from some of these burrowing mammals, and temperature extremes. So move forward to the next item. So this is the update on the project cost. The total project costs, so this includes the construction contract and all of the soft costs, is around $15 million. So far, we've secured about $6,750,000, and we've put in about $678,000 of our own funds so far, and leaving us with the funding gap of about $7.6 million. And in this column, you can see the grants that we have secured so far. The California Natural Resources Agency River Parkway grant, and that's Prop 68 money. Round 2 and round 4 of San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority RFP, and then the EPA San Francisco Bay Water Quality Improvement Program, $2 million from that source. And staff continues to work on securing more funding. We've identified a number of potential grants that we'll be applying for in the coming months. And hopefully we can have a full funding package together here shortly. And that brings us to our next steps. So as Lisa mentioned, we plan on bringing the construction management contract and the purchase of the restroom and gatehouse to the full board next week. And one of the benefits of us purchasing the building in advance, the gatehouse building and the restroom building, is we can get ahead in our building permit review with the city of Fremont, because that creates an unknown in the timing and construction schedule. And as Lisa mentioned, the construction management contract is really necessary for a project of this size. where we are spending a great deal of money over a short period of time to complete the project. We plan to bring the project out to bid in the winter, spring of 2022. And after that bidding period is over, to bring an item to the board to award the construction contract. And we're anticipating that to be around spring, summer of next year, and start construction shortly thereafter. And then hopefully we can have a new park or a major upgrade and opening of the new park area in the summer of 2023. And that, if I can get to my pointer, that concludes my presentation. This is an informational item only. And thank you again. I'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Great, thank you. Questions from the board? I'm going to start with Director Corbett because I can't see you. Director Corbett, do you have questions?
I don't always have to be first, but thank you. I guess, well, first of all, thank you for the presentation. It's so nice to see the success towards, protecting the environmental good parts of this land, and very much appreciate that because I've been watching what was going on in this land for many years when I was elected in another position representing the Fremont area. So it's great to see the positive actions here. I have a couple of little questions. One is on the putting in additional planting and recognizing the fact that the water that may end up in the area, it may impact the type of plants that can be there, but are we looking more directly at the types of wild plants or wildflowers that were in that area historically to protect those? Is that part of what we're doing?
Yeah, that's correct, Director Corbett. We've had a focus on for our seed collection to first prioritize collection of seeds that are there in Coyote Hills, and then adjacent to Coyote Hills as well, going into our other parks in the area, such as Ardenwood.
Okay, and is there any, maybe not on this particular parcel, but isn't there an area near here or nearby that will also be looked at planting with vegetable type plants? That must be next door, right?
Yeah, that's correct. There is the urban agriculture component of the land use plan amendment. And so the plan calls for sustainable agriculture to be grown at the ag field, and operations is currently in the lead. Business services is in the lead on that.
So that's not in this particular area?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Coffey.
Thank you, Chris and staff. It's wonderful to see this moving forward. We've been watching it for a long time now. I wanted to first ask of staff that Chris said information only. I think you want us to approve the recommendation for management?
Yes, please. We got a little confused on that. So thank you. We would appreciate a recommendation.
Sure. So bouncing off Director Corbett's question on urban agriculture, how is that envisioned to be operated? Outside operator or directly by the district?
This is Lisa Gorge. I'm just going to give one update and then hand it over to Jim O'Connor. We are in the process, as Chris mentioned, of installing or replacing a well on the agricultural parcel. So that's really the first step. And so that won't be completed until probably the beginning of next year. So that's just part of the infrastructure that needs to go in to support what's going to happen. Now I'm going to turn it over.
I was
to
just
Jim.
curious as whether this is going to be an extension of Ardenwood, essentially.
Good afternoon. Jim O'Connor, your Assistant General Manager of Operations. So Director Coffey, we went through an RFP process, you might recall, which was a dual RFP process for both our farmer concessionaire for Ardenwood and for the Patterson property. That
Okay.
was about almost 2 years ago now.
All right, I just forgot.
Yeah, and we did include the Patterson property. We did not get anybody willing to put in for farming at that point, mostly I think because of the uncertainty around the well, agricultural well. But we do have Bear Flag Robotics that is doing the weed management for us on site. So that keeps the property in agricultural ready condition until we're ready to go out to RFP again once the well is completed.
That makes sense. And Chris, I noticed that there is a parcel designated as future city park. I recall the parcel designated for a future school. I wasn't aware of a potential city park, and I'm wondering how that comes into being and how that is integrated with our planning.
Yeah, Director Coffey, I think one of the graphics during the time of the land use plan amendment had labeled those parcels that are along Ardenwood Boulevard that are adjacent to our park. And the ownership is by Fremont Unified School District and the city of Fremont. And staff has been, and I'll turn this over to Lisa and Christina if they want to speak to this, because they've been working directly with the school district and the city on a potential school, coordinating a potential school site and city park. Actually, I think it'd be more of a neighborhood park because it's a small parcel over there. Lisa, do you want to chime in?
I'm going to turn it over
Good
to
afternoon.
Christina.
Christina Kelchner, Assistant General Manager. Director Coffey, we have been meeting with the school board, the school district and the city to coordinate the planning of these 3 parcels. The school district still very much has plans to develop that site, but they're probably a few years off and not sure exactly what their design is going to look like. So we're moving ahead with our project with the understanding with the school district that if a trail needs to be relocated to accommodate their project at their expense, we will cooperate with them. So we are staying in close coordination so that there will be a city park and a school, and hopefully we'll be able to take advantage of some shared parking down the road when the school is ready to move forward. But we are doing that coordination.
So the city park comes with the school. When the school's developed, that'll be developed.
Correct.
And it's being coordinated. So that was what I was interested in. My last question is, and thank you, Christina. Chris, there's 4 miles of new trail. I couldn't tell from the map whether that's all paved. Is it partially dirt? What kind of trails are those?
Director Coffey, the new trails, it's a combination of trails. So for example, that spur trail Overlook would be an 8-foot wide trail that would be like DG or a kind of a stabilized, softer kind of surface. And then the longer trails that make those long connections from north to south, those are going to be 12-foot wide, paved trails.
Okay, that's all for me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Going back to the well, Chris, you said that the kiosk as well as the ag is depending on well water. Is all that water coming out of one well, the one that we're developing?
So we'll have Director Rosario. We'll have several sources of water for the project. There will be municipal water that will be used to serve the flush toilets in the restroom, and then also the gatehouse. The use of the ag water would be from the new well that's being drilled on the south side of Patterson Ranch Road. And we have an opportunity because the capacity, that well is producing enough water to where we can use that kind of in the near term to help establish our trees and meet some of the watering needs. But it would not be a long-term use of that water.
Okay, great. And then speaking of water again, in the wetlands that we're proposing, is that going to be freshwater or brackish?
It'll be primarily fresh water. but with one caveat that, you know, as the water table rises, the soil is going to get saltier. So it may be somewhat saline, and that's part of the reason why our plant selection is we have a lot of salt tolerant species included.
And then that leads to plantings. Is there an opportunity here to engage volunteers in the planting of trees, especially in the parking lot area?
The way we're planning to put the construction contract out is because the landscaping in the staging area is different from the restoration landscaping, and it's going to be included in the larger construction contract to have all of the herbaceous plants and the trees all included in the construction contract. There is opportunity for tree planting using volunteers within the restoration area. And the way the project is currently proceeding is most of those plants will be in trees will be installed under the construction contract, but it's such a large area that we could add more trees. It would be a great opportunity to do that. We have had some discussion with operations, the interpretive parks unit, the naturalists down there, to see what we can do to work with some of the Native American groups to do something like that. But we envision that would be post-construction, a future activity.
Great. I think that's a great idea. Anything we can do to enamor the community into their project there, that would be wonderful. And then the Overlook, if I remember correctly, there was some controversy regarding that Overlook and the use of that road. Are we encompassing the commitments we made in those previous meetings to when we using that road and as an overlook?
Yes. So the resolution, the board resolution from when the board certified the EIR, identified the potential for the that spur trail to be in or out of the project. So it really is an optional item. But based on the uniqueness of that trail providing kind of an expanded public access opportunity, staff is recommending that we proceed with it now, since our environmental impact analysis showed that there's really no significant impact with using that former utility road for public access.
I think I see
Director
Christina.
Coffey, if I could just add to that, AGM Kelchner again. At the time that we adopted that the board approved the land use plan, the board's direction was to ask staff to go back and evaluate that and take a closer look at potential impacts, potential alternatives, and for staff to make a recommendation about whether the trail should be included. So we have done that. Staff has done that and is coming back to the board with the recommendation that the best balance of public access and stewardship and protection is the use of this existing road, so that we wouldn't need to do additional disturbance to provide that a user experience.
Okay, great. And then I think also as part of that, there was talk of expansion of the existing willow groves in that area. Is that being planned for that Outlook area? If I can recollect right.
Director Rosario, the Patterson Slough, that most of the willow restoration where we're going to be expanding the willows is going to be a little bit further to the east from this area. And what the public will see in using the spur trail will be restored grasslands, and the immersive experience really is being so close to that riparian canopy that flanks Patterson Slough on both sides.
Okay, great. I think that is my last question.
Mr. Chair, I have a couple more questions.
Yes, Director Corbett.
In bringing up the issue of the well, I recall that we had presentations at I think it was at least 2 years ago, about the, repair of that well. And I'm just wondering, it seems like it's moving a lot slower than we expected. Can somebody tell me what's going on with that?
Yeah, Director Corbett, this is Lisa Gorgon, Chief of Design and Construction. We initiated construction in 2020 and we're moving along, and then encountered some supply chain delays. So that's been the primary reason for the delays. And then we did have to do some adjustment with the well depth to make it a little bit shorter than we initially planned, but really the delay has to do with sort of the global supply chain issues that we're seeing. So we anticipate the project will be completed early next year in 2022. So I hope if you have further questions, let me know.
Okay, no, did that impact our ability to have people use the agricultural part of the land? Because my next question is regarding, I thought we had a contract with an entity that wanted to use the land to use their working. Yes, I know who knows about this. I see you. Did we continue with that contract with the group that was going to use the agricultural equipment? Or did they go away? We can't hear you, by the way. Your mic doesn't seem to be open.
My apologies, I had the mic off. This is Jim O'Connor, Assistant General Manager of Operations. So in answer to your question, Director Corbett, is we currently have Bear Flag Robotics, which is on a short-term contract, year-to-year contract,
Right.
just to primarily do weed management on the plot, so that we can keep our weeds down, so that the property is in agricultural condition. We're ready to seek an actual farmer to do the farming on the site. So once the well is completed and we have a good agricultural water source, then we'll go out to RFP, and hopefully we'll be lucky enough to find a farmer that's interested in this plot of land and can do the work that we want.
Was that the entity that wanted to have a contract with us to practice how to use their newly built types of equipment and grow things on our land? And they requested that we pretty much gave them the use of the land for free?
Yeah, Bear Flag Robotics is basically, they do testing of automated agricultural tractors.
Yes.
And so this is a perfect setup for us because they can practice doing their automated autonomous tractors, and we can get our weed control work done. It works out very well for us in this situation while we're waiting to get the well completed.
Their original proposal was to grow some type of agricultural plants, as I recall, and now they're just doing weeding.
Well, primarily doing the grading, but you're right. One of the actions we'd like them to do is do a cover crop for nitrogen
Right.
fixation, and I believe we're still asking them to do that. I don't know the status of that, but I can provide you that offline, an update on that.
Okay, and didn't we have an agreement with them to do that also 2 years ago?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Did we also have an agreement for them to do the agricultural growing of plants about 2 years ago? As part of our contract with them to be able to practice their new use of their newly invented equipment and give them that opportunity to do it for free on our land? They were going to do agriculture.
I believe you're correct, but let me check in with staff and make sure that work was completed, and I'll provide you and the other committee members an update on that.
Okay, that'd be good to know. Thank you so much.
You bet.
Yeah, yeah, I recall I recall that they were supposed to be doing some kind of cover crop there. And the park supervisor was supposed to provide a list. So yeah, we should follow up on that. Any other follow-up questions? Director Coffey? Okay, great. Seeing no further, do we have any public comments?
We have no public comments.
Great, thank you. With that, then I'll take a motion as in order to recommend this the board for the contract.
You want me to do it? So moved.
Sure.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Okay, President Rosario,
Aye.
Director Coffee,
Aye.
Director Corbin.
Aye.
Perfect.
Great. Passed unanimously. Can I make a recommendation when bringing this to the board to just list the other bidders for the construction management contract? Or is this a continuing? Okay. Great, thank you. Then if there are no other public comments.
No, we have no other public comments.
Okay, any further committee comments from the committee?
I'm just glad to see this moving forward.
Yay. Great. And then general manager comments.
Nope.
I'll just take this before we adjourn. I just want to acknowledge the passing of Supervisor Diane Burgess's husband, and I just want to offer our heartfelt condolences to her loss. Very sad, very tragic, and I just wanted to read what she is urging. She is urging people to use kindness going forward, kind words, and being gentle with one another as we go forward. So I think that is good advice. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you.